Welcome to Lady Business, the podcast where we make the mess feel normal. As always, in this episode, we're diving into another inspiring conversation with our guest who is carving their own path. Each episode brings you insight and perspectives from our guests as they share their journey, struggles, and triumphs that have brought them to today. Whether you're building your own business or supporting those who are, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Lady Business is all about the raw, real stories behind the hustle. We're here to get unfiltered about what it takes to grow, succeed, and sometimes stumble. So, let's jump right in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Lady Business. Today, I am joined with Nicola Brown, and I want to thank her for being with us today. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So let's just jump right in. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicola. I get the distinct privilege of working at the intersection of business and life, supporting people to design a life and business that works for the season that they're living in.
So let's tell everybody a little bit how we met.
Yeah.
So Nicola and Doyen, or Nicola's company KOKORO and Doyen, have been partnering together as part of our Triple Threat Venture Training Program since 2022. I had like a hard time of like, was it 2021 or 2022?
2021.
Okay.
We met. So what people should know is that we didn't just jump into partnership. Like, we knew each other for a while from the intro that we received, and then we started a contract together the year later.
Yeah, okay, so that makes more sense. Because as we know, those years were a blur.
They were such a blur.
And it really started, I can't even remember who introduced us, but it was over this connection of how we approach entrepreneurship and working with entrepreneurs and not looking at it from the traditional, the business is the focal point, but more as the person is the focal point. The entrepreneur, even if they don't identify as an entrepreneur, is the focal point as to how businesses succeed and are able to grow and scale and hit their targets, whatever their targets may be. And so the way that our organizations partner is Triple Threat is a 20-week program. The first 12 weeks, they primarily work with Doyen, and they do workshops and lots of reflection work, but they don't realize it's reflection work. My like sneaky middle school teacher comes out of like, think about you and put yourself in this focal point, and kind of be in me mode as to how and why you run your business, but through a way of looking at it from an outsider perspective is really how I approach that first 12 weeks. And helping them gain clarity from the business side, looking into the business, so that when they move over to working with Nicola during the last 8 weeks of the program, they're much more focused on themselves.
And in our part of the program, the last 8 weeks, it's focused on the ways that we know things and how we make decisions in our business. Oftentimes, there are so many undercurrents that are driving the way someone chooses to run their business that isn't visible. And so over the course of 8 weeks, we ask some really personal and in-depth questions that are generative so that you can come into the insights and knowing of why you do the things the way you do, and come back into choice and agency to be able to move forward into how you want to steward your business.
Yeah. And I went through your program.
You did.
And it was an awkward experience because even though I'm promoting this is how we should look at entrepreneurs, I had to do the personal reflection work. And I still have I do have it out here. I still have my notebook that has all my notes and everything that I took while I went through the program. And I was actually just looking at that notebook the other day and looking at the notes I wrote down around the reflection I was seeing of myself from the other group members in my cohort. And also thinking about how does their faces, because it was more what their faces were saying than what their actual words were saying, how is that influencing the choices and decisions I'm making in my business?
Because relationships matter. Relationships are our through line.
Right.
And like for KOKORO, we always say, what is your relationship to yourself? What is your relationship to an insert there? And the centering belief is that we're always in relationship with something, but we may not always choose to acknowledge it for a myriad of reasons. And so the cohort experience that we offer together enables people to see themselves and to see themselves with others, because business is, you don't do business by yourself. There's just no world that works right now
Right.
or will ever.
Well, it's so because you get that real time, it's a different type of feedback. And as we know, we communicate more with our bodies than we actually do verbally,
Exactly.
which is why when you read anything on social media or just any written communication, why we are so likely to throw an emoji in there because you're like, is my tone coming across? Because you can't see my face. But vice versa, when there's no opportunity to really give that feedback and you're just going off of the body language that's present, it's a completely different experience than even when you're talking to your customers or your clients and they're saying one thing to you, but then they'll go write that awesome review online.
Exactly.
Or it teaches you as the entrepreneur, it teaches you a different way of, they're not my target market. Or do I make adjustments so they fit into my company? Or is that giving up what my company is really standing for and really does, based on trying to conform to that one piece of feedback or that limited feedback?
It's also, what have you learned from the feedback about yourself? And what are you learning about that person? Because oftentimes the feedback has undertones to it. Like the words have a layer of meaning, but like the timing of the feedback also matters. And so I'm always like, so tell me more about that. What else could be going on if you were this person sharing this feedback? What else might you hope someone gleans from this, more so than just seeing it as what it is? Because it's always helpful,
Yeah.
even if it's not the words or language you wanted to hear. It's helpful. It gives you context. And that's what we're always seeking is, can we see the multiple contexts that are here? And can we hold them and make a decision?
And I think that that's something that you and I talk about constantly with Triple Threat and the entrepreneurs. Like, I am sure if we went back through our conversations that aren't recorded or our emails, they all
Yeah.
said, this cohort is different. But when we break things down, the confidence building or lack thereof, or the building new skills, there are a lot of common threads that we see. The accountability is a huge one too. A lot of common threads that we see through all of our entrepreneurs, because the majority of our entrepreneurs, this wasn't their first career of starting their own business. They've worked elsewhere where someone has given them a lot of the tools to be able to do their job, versus now I'm the one who has to give myself the tools or figure out how to find the tools. which I think also plays into this, like, them going through the journey and us watching from a distance. And sometimes we will say, they're going to come back in 6 months and they're
Yeah.
going to say something completely different, which we have seen.
We have seen. And part of it is connecting, like what you just talked about is like the first base for us is let's connect all of the things in your landscape that led you to be at this business. Oftentimes an entrepreneur is like, I'm in a season of life that I can't work for someone. But what does that mean? What do you need to build fail safes for and context for to enable? Because the business is a way to enable you to do something different. But it's hard to think about that if you need this business immediately to turn you a profit and to have revenue. And so recognizing where people are on that initial connection journey as they analyze how they're navigating is like so critical and key. And our total goal is that you refine as time goes on and your business continues to evolve and grow.
Right. And I think that's where sometimes I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I feel like an emotional punching bag with the entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Of It's kind of like the saying, like, your kids are always the worst with their parents because they know you're a safe, well, hopefully they know you're a safe spot.
Yeah.
And they can behave or say things because they know no matter what, you're going to continue to show up for them when the hits can be personal, can tell us how we are horrible at our jobs. And us having to be like, am I really the target of their frustrations right now? Or they're
Yeah.
in this season. And I have to just be like, okay, let me know when we can chat again.
Yeah, there's this framework that comes to mind around like your loop of awareness. And if your loop of awareness is open and expansive, so then you can see all the things. But if you narrowed your focus in your loop, it's just this one thing until you open back up. And that's usually, for a lot of people, that's usually when they circle back and they're like, oh my goodness, no one told me that this was how I was behaving. This was how I was communicating. I'm so sorry. All these things were happening in my life at this time, and I didn't realize its impact. And so it goes back to where we think about impact versus intent. Like the intent can be so genuine and helpful and brave, but the impact in how it lands leaves us going back and forth. And part of our commitment is to be present with what is for you. So as companies and the way that we've designed them is that we know that life is going to ebb and flow. And can you build a business that works for that, just like we are building businesses that works for life?
Yeah.
And not the inverse.
Right. Well, and it's also, I can't remember if I've mentioned this in other episodes, but I have this sign here on my desk that says, always be kinder than you feel. I forget about it. But not because I'm not trying to reflect it, but because it's just always there. But I have so many people that when we'll jump into a meeting or a call and they'll be like, oh, I really needed to see your sign today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, our behaviors come across in a variety of ways. And it is, how do we hold ourselves accountable for the whoops? I lashed out at Nicola. I lashed out at Heather because I'm so overwhelmed, or I just want this thing to work, or I have XYZ going on in my life outside of this, and I just feel like I got a laundry list of more things to do instead of crossing anything out.
Or
And
you asked me a question that no one has ever asked me before. Because as we talk about like the integration human part, our portion is pretty deep. Like we start off by asking you, what has your gender identity taught you about money? No one wakes up and says, oh yeah, you know what I want to have a conversation with people that I don't yet know? Money.
well, and that's because that's one of those taboo topics that we're not supposed to talk about. But and also like the number of times I see women say, well, I don't think my gender played any real deal into the challenges or struggles or successes that I've had. Okay. Like,
And then they continue talking. And as they continue talking, I don't think that anything, oh, but there was this one time, and there's always this one story that then becomes the thread that unravels what the true experience has been like.
right,
But we're defaulted to say, I wasn't impacted by that.
right,
And that's because we've gotten so desensitized to it must be a really big impact for us to be able to claim its effect on the quality of life that you have. And impact is impact.
right. Well, I agree. I think another part of it is that narrative of it's because I'm a woman
Yeah.
has been turned into victim blaming, or I don't know if I'd call it victimizing yourself
Mhm.
or creating more divide. And so I think there's a fear around,
Yeah.
even if I name what it is, it's creating a divide that potentially will hurt me and my company. And that's what people are going to remember more than anything else.
And I would say what's helpful is being, once you are clear on how your identity might be affected in a certain scenario, being clear on what you need to
Mhm.
navigate that scenario well.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes naming an identity is not sufficient enough information to receive the support or the help that you're seeking.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you haven't even really talked on like your background as to the how and why you do the work that you do and what's brought you to this point. But again, I do believe that your lived experiences, my lived experiences are part of what has made our partnership within our organizations also work so well, because one, we're bringing, a variety of lived experiences, but also a silver lining shared experience of seeing how these narratives play out um, across vast populations.
Yeah. I would say like the through line and the thread for this work for me is that relationships matter, not in the cheesy sense of like, oh, I'm accounting relationships like how it happens in the social media world, in the depth sense of being truly in relationship with someone as you are bringing a new thing into life matters significantly.
Mhm.
It is the bridge between your idea and it living in the world. And if I didn't have people in my life that enabled that trust building, that relationship building, etc., then I would be navigating all of the uncertainty alone. And so part of our core reason for why we do the things we do is that recognizing that relationships change and transition and transform. And oftentimes there isn't anyone to walk alongside you when that's happening. And the belief for me as the founder that that's not okay. Like we were made to connect.
Right.
So what's the friction? The friction is there isn't a container for those relationships to even find each other at the right time.
Yeah.
And together we make that possible.
Well, and I think that's, it's still going against the grain.
It's different.
It's different. And it's messy. And so it's not just I'm going to go through the Joyanne program that partners with KOKORO, and we're going to check all these boxes. And, like we even, if you look at the marketing material, it says, this is what we're going to do. And I think a lot of people look at it and say, okay, I just have to do these things. And then I'm going to get the grant that's at the end and life will be great.
Right. What they miss in that part is that for life to continue to be great, there's some practicing, there's some implementation, there's some weaving of the knowledge from the content and the workshops into your life. It just doesn't happen because you heard the workshop. All of a sudden, your marketing strategy is transformed and you are good to go. And when it comes to doing that strategy, what we found is there's some human capabilities that then hinder you. There are some mindset biases that keep you away from that. And so our core work in using dialogue and asking questions is for people to then slow down and realize what decisions they're making, and if those are the decisions they want to continue making with this new insight and knowledge. Because it's easy to keep moving, even though you've just garnered new knowledge with the old knowledge, because it's your default mode.
Well, and that's where, like, with the workbook pages, as we call it, Joyanne, they're workbook pages where they have like doing the business model canvas and doing their marketing, marketing overview, their strategic marketing plan, and then also doing the company-wide strategic plan for what does 6, 12, and 18 months look like down the road. And I purposely, like, they spend time working on that during that first 12 weeks with me. And I also tell them, like, if you've already done this, don't reinvent the wheel, copy paste it. But also look at this as you're writing in pencil, as you should always do with everything. You're writing in pencil. And so as you're looking at what have you written in the past, does it still fit? Mm-hmm. And then I don't make them turn it in until after they've gone through aftercare with you, because they go back. Even the ones that will submit it, oh, I got it all done during that 12 weeks. Heather, can you review it? Sure. But I'm not going to say it's done. Like, I will reach back out and say, hey, we're hitting week 20 where this is done. Do you want to make any revisions? Because that aftercare work is so critical. And that's where I see a lot of them going back and changing their narratives, their goals, the who, what, why, when of their company, because they've looked at it through a different lens that hasn't been even offered before.
And that's what creates the ripple to what you were talking about, of like, you see the statement that you jotted down from your cohort, and then you remember the impact that statement had on you and what choice you now want to make with that information and how you want to garner moving forward. And that's so amazing to see and to be able to support. And our team gets so excited when we see that transformation. We see that also with so we do pulses, and we see that even the people that choose not to complete the pulse will say, I didn't complete it, but I read the questions and realized that I need to change some of my behaviors. I recognize that I'm not getting enough sleep, or I recognize that I'm not getting enough connection with other people, or that I'm not kind enough to myself. So there's no world that I can be kind to other people. And that then opens up a different possibility, because it's easy to get stuck thinking this is one path. And what we're very clear on, there are multiple paths. It just depends on what path you want to take for now.
Mhm.
But you got to commit to one.
Yeah. I always love chatting with you.
It's so fun.
But I also just always learn something new about myself when we chat too. It's not just, it's a little selfish moment as much as how do we best support each other and the communities that we serve and continue down our paths. But so KOKORO doesn't just work with Doyen.
No.
Who are your primary audiences or markets?
We work with leaders. So we work with individuals that are stewarding a vision and thinking about how they will make that vision a reality and who they need to become to do that. So we are focused on building your capabilities through the lens of communication, because no matter what you're thinking of doing, you need to communicate, and the way you communicate determines the health of your relationships. And we believe that your relationships are your health.
I ask this to everybody. We use the term terror thrilling a lot in Doyen. So something that's terrifying. It's like I always use this analogy. It's like when you're on the top of that first hill on the roller coaster and you're looking over it just before you fall, and it's scary, but it's also like exhilarating. What is something that is terror thrilling, either work or personal life right now?
I would say, like, thinking about the connections and the relationships is like tarot thrilling, because I'm an introvert and I love relationships. And so sometimes they feel like they want to be in competition with each other, and just remembering that they can be in right relationship. But yeah, it's terrifying and thrilling at the same time to meet and start new relationships.
Ditto.
And we did it, and we're proof that it's worthwhile.
Nicola is always sending me emails like, Heather, come to this conference with me. Heather, we should submit. And I'm the one who's like, do we have to? And she's like, Heather, get out of your office.
It's true.
So I appreciate that you do that for me. And, one of these days, it's always on a scheduling conflict because we both are very busy.
There's so many things. And I think that is also tarot thrilling in the entrepreneurship ecosystem specifically, is that there's so many spaces that you want to spend your time in, especially as an entrepreneur support organization, a leader support organization, and recognizing that you can't be all places, you can't do things for all people. There's a certain readiness that's necessary in being able to support those that are right for what you offer.
Oh man, again, thank you so much for taking time to chat with all of us today, Nicola. And I also want to thank our followers for taking the time to listen to our conversation. So please check out the links for this episode that's in the bio of the episode for more information for how you can learn more about Nicola and KOKORO as they continue on their journey, or find out how you can potentially work with them as well and support your professional growth and I believe it's a professional and personal growth, and also potentially support your organization or your companies. So just remember, you're doing great, and let us know how both of us can support you going forward. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Doyen Lady Business Podcast is a production of Doyen Group Inc. This show is recorded, produced, and edited by Doyen Group team members. I am your host, Heather Wentler. If you want to listen to all past Lady Business episodes, please head on over to doyangroup.org and click to visit our Learning Lab to see past season episodes and learn more about past guests. If you love what you're hearing, make sure to click those subscribe or follow buttons wherever you're listening to Lady Business and share with others who you think would enjoy listening as well. Remember, you're doing great, and thank you for being you.